In a courthouse behind me, Blanche Taylor Moore was convicted of murdering her boyfriend, who died a slow, painful death. The case shocked the people of Winston-Salem and the nation and is now the subject of a TV movie. Scott Rapoport with the real story of the woman they call the Black Widow.
And even if there's arsenic in everybody I know, I am not going to sit here and say I did something I did not do.
Tonight's made-for-TV movie, The Black Widow Murders, based on a recent book, paints an ungodly tale of a preacher's daughter who maliciously murders the men in her life by discreetly poisoning them and coldly watching them waste away.
It's in the hands of the Lord. If he wants to save him, he shall be saved.
An unthinkable drama made all the more terrifying because the story is real. Her name is Blanche Taylor Moore, a seemingly sweet church-going woman who authorities say over the course of the last 30 years systematically poisoned the people closest to her.
She thinks that she is right next to God. She can decide who needs to live, who needs to die, who needs to suffer.
In plain English, what did Blanche Moore do?
In plain English, she killed the heck out of these people.
Blanche Taylor Moore, the Black Widow, a convicted murderer who might have kept right on killing, if not for the one man who incredibly managed to survive her wicked web.
I feel very lucky and fortunate and blessed to be alive.
There once was a time when the Reverend Dwight Moore would count among his blessings his lovely bride Blanche, a widow and the daughter of a pastor herself. It was a second marriage for both of them, and for Reverend Moore, a chance for eternal happiness.
I certainly felt that it would be forever.
But just days after their honeymoon in 1989, Reverend Moore would become violently ill, hospitalized, near death.
Retching, vomiting that feels like your entire body is going to be turned inside out. It was simply uncontrollable. Nothing could control it.
Doctors determined Reverend Moore had been poisoned with arsenic, a tasteless, colorless, odorless poison once commonly found in ant killer. But an even bigger shock was yet to come. How much arsenic did they find in you?
The level of arsenic was 126 times normal.
In your body?
In my body.
Dwight Moore has the North American record for the amount of arsenic a human being has had ingested into their body and then lived to tell about it.
Authorities were initially suspicious of Moore's wife Blanche, who continued to visit the Reverend in the hospital as his condition seemed to fluctuate. But the case would significantly turn on a single question by police. Reverend Dwight Moore remembers.
They asked me if I knew of anyone in Blanche's life that had suffered a mysterious death.
Dwight told them of a Raymond Reid, Blanche's previous boyfriend, who died in 1986, presumably from Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rarely fatal disease. In a gruesome search for the truth, authorities exhumed Reid's body from the grave in June of 1989. The medical examiner determined the actual cause of death was arsenic poisoning.
Raymond Reid had arsenic in every tissue in his body. Every organ that was tested, his brain, his liver, were full of arsenic.
1 month later, authorities dug up the body of Blanche's first husband, James Taylor, who died in 1973, presumably from a heart attack. Again, the medical examiner determined Taylor, too, died from arsenic poisoning.
Her husband was poisoned repeatedly over weeks and weeks and weeks, right up until the time he died.
Authorities arrested Blanche Taylor Moore and charged her with the murders of former husband James Taylor, former boyfriend Raymond Reid, and the poisoning of the Reverend Dwight Moore. What are you thinking now?
My dreams are shattered, needless to say. I had, was at the point of beginning a new life of happiness with a woman that I loved. And for heaven's sake, she's trying to kill me.
But those closest to Blanche, her family, maintained she was innocent, despite the pattern of the poisonings.
I'd have to agree that it looks damaging. But you have to realize this. I knew all these people, too. I had associations with them. I had opportunity if I wanted it. But that doesn't mean I killed them. I do believe she's been railroaded, and I believe she's been victimized.
At her trial, a defiant Blanche Taylor Moore took the stand in her defense.
I've been in jail a long time, and it's been hard. But to know my faith in God
The love of my family and friends and my innocence that I sit here right today trying to project is what's kept me going.
But the jury was not convinced. In November of 1990, it found Blanche Taylor Moore guilty of murdering Raymond Reid.
It is therefore ordered, judged and decreed that the same Blanche Kiser Taylor Moore be put to death as by law provided. May God have mercy on her soul.
Why did she do it?
She's a compulsive poisoner. She has to poison people and punish them for what she doesn't like.
To this day, the Reverend Dwight Moore walks with a limp and says he has little feeling in his feet and hands, the result of his near-fatal arsenic poisoning, the sting of the Black Widow. Still, there's that little smile he gets from cheating death.
I was not supposed to survive.
Is that your revenge, that you lived?
I think that's probably a good way of looking at it.
Well, Miss Moore is currently on death row appealing her conviction. If she loses, she could face death, ironically, by lethal injection. And Blanche Taylor Moore could also be tried for poisoning her two husbands. When we come back in just a few moments, Sharon Stone has made some commercials, but we're not supposed to see them.
Sharon Stone was picked for these ads simply because she's a sex symbol.
I'm the most exhausted thing around. I'm working.